Hey guys, CrossZ here with a triple review. This time I'll be reviewing the RKF Legend Rider series, Kamen Build RabbitTank form, Kamen CrossZ, and Kamen Grease from Kamen Build. These are the first three entries in the second sub-series of Rider Kicks figures, the Legend Rider series, which will be releasing various past riders and various forms at the new, smaller scale. Each figure includes one weapon and two alternate hands. So, let's get started. First up, we have Kamen Build RabbitTank form. This, of course, is Build's base form, which is mainly red and blue with a rabbit and tank motif. And this is a design we've seen before, thanks to me reviewing it in the Ball Change Rider series. The head sculpt is very well done. You can clearly see the rabbit and tank eyes. Unfortunately, mine had a bit of a QC issue where there's a bit of a paint scuff here on the blue half of the head, but that's a minor issue. That metallic paint also continues down to the chest plate. There does a similar thing to the BCR figure where it only has metallic paint in some spots, whereas other bits of red are done up using plastic. That being said, compared to the RKF figure, I would say that the plastic colors used here better match with the metallic paints and don't stand out quite as much. They do have some of the key details painted in, like the white for the springs on the rabbit leg. Of course, they do have the details of the different feet for the rabbit and tank half bodies. Similarly, there is no paint on the back, but as you can see, the plastic here is used for the shoulders, lower arms, and lower legs. Now, articulation-wise, you got a ball joint head, 360 rotation for the arms, in and out, have a bicep rotation, single joint elbows, and wrist swivel. Then, similar to the Legend Rider series, instead of a waist joint, he has an ab crunch, which is on a very nice ball joint. Legs go forward and back, in and out, have a roll at the hip, a pretty deep single joint knee, and then ball joint ankles. Now for comparison, here he is next to the BCR series RabbitTank form. Of course, this is a smaller scale, so he's about half a head shorter. You can see that there is quite a difference in terms of the paint and plastic. I'd say they used slightly brighter metallics for the paint, and they also had a bit of a glittery effect to the plastic used here. Of course, there is slightly better paint on the larger BCR figure, and it is a bit ironic that for the gimmick-changing figure, you had the balls painted in, whereas usually for those kind of things you would keep them blank so they can match with any forms. Whereas on this smaller figure that can't interchange with other figures, the balls aren't painted in. Additionally, the belt straps aren't painted on here, whereas they are on the BCR figure. You'll also notice that one bit of a leg up is that there is metallic paint on the lower legs to the BCR figure, whereas they're plastic on the RKF one. Though that being said, this does technically have better articulation. But it is still something that is different, but just as good, if not maybe a little bit better than that original BCR. As far as accessories go, first off, he includes his signature weapon, the Drill Crusher, which in this case is molded in blue plastic, which is interesting because for the BCR release, this was done in black, and there is black plastic on this figure. Now, considering that when they mold weapons, they typically will pick one of the plastic colors from the figure, you would have thought that they'd pick black as well, and it wouldn't blend in with the hand since it is red here. But besides that, of course, you can have him hold it in either hands by just gripping it like that. And you can hold it quite well. As far as his alternate hands go, he's got two with his fingers splayed out in different positions. These are used for one of his signature poses, being his post-transformation pose. Like with the Legend Rider series, just pop it out of the socket and then pop the new one in. And it's very quick and simple to do. A lot more so than if you're trying to swap out hands on something like an XH Figure Arts. And so like that, you can get him into this kind of pose, which is what these hands are meant to be used for. And again, like with the Geo figure, it's cool that they are including alternate hands for kind of some of the signature poses of the riders. Next up, we have Kamen Rider CrossZ. Now, CrossZ is an interesting release because his base form never got a figure in the Ball Change Rider series, and up until now, the only two articulated figures we had for him were the much smaller Soto figure that wouldn't really match with a lot of other standard release figures, and then the rather pricey premium Bandai exclusive SH Figure Arts CrossZ. So this is actually the first standard release, standard size action figure for Kamen Rider CrossZ. This guy's got all these right details. You can see all the nice blues and metallic oranges. Got the details for the dragon eyes and the crest. A lot of nice white paint for the claws and different dragon details all along his body. And of course he does have that asymmetry with the one half of the body being painted orange on this side and then the other leg being painted down here. And of course he does have the CrossZ dragon molded onto the bottle, or molded into the belt rather. It's got about the same articulation as Build, though he also has these hinges on the shoulders so that you can move them out of the way, so that you can move the arms out in more directions than you would if they were locked in place. Of note is that these parts for the dragon wings are actually separate pieces that do pop off, and that's most likely just so you can put them back on in case they come off on accident. That way the figure won't be permanently broken. Besides that, there isn't really that much else to talk about in terms of CrossZ's design, since he is very similar to Build, since they kind of share a similar base body. For comparison, here is him with the SH Figure Arts version. Of course, this is the much higher grade figure, so you've got a lot more metallic paint, whereas the metallics are just kind of limited to the oranges and then the eyes for the RKF release. But you can see it gets a lot of the same details down, and does them quite well, so you could kind of think of this as a cheaper alternative to this SH Figure Arts release. You can definitely tell that they did put a lot of effort into making the best standard figure they could for this guy, especially when you compare him to the SHF. For his accessories, first up we have the beat closer. This one is done up all in black plastic. You can see all of the nice details in there. Of course, you have the open hole for inserting a full ball, though of course there isn't one to put in there. Like with Build, this will just pop into the hand, just like that. Though because it is a wider handle, it's a little bit trickier for him to get a proper grip on it. But, once again, if you have him holding it well, it will generally stay in place. It just is a little bit more tricky compared to his red and blue companion. Then for the alternate hands, this includes a pair of fists, which is pretty appropriate for CrossZ since his character is a boxer. Once again, the alternate hands pop off pretty easily. And then the new ones just pop right in. And you don't have to worry about the spikes as they are all rounded so they aren't too sharp. So you're not going to hurt yourself accidentally like you might on an SH figure arts, which generally are known to have sharper points. Then you can get him into a kind of general fighting pose. And last but not least, we have Kamen Grease. So out of the three, I think this guy is actually the most well done of the three. As you can see, he is done up in not only metallic gold plastic, but also a lot of metallic gold paint, along with black plastic and then clear black. Starting with the head, you can see that they actually did make it so that you have paint under the clear plastic shell. So you've got the eyes showing through and then also the lines around the mouth. As well as the horn, which of note will come detached in the packaging, so you just have to plug it onto here when you get them out of the box. It is a very solid close on the helmet, so this isn't going to come apart. Got the chest plate, which you can see has all that nice detail, and is clear enough that you can see the gold underneath. Got shoulder pads, which have the tampograph details right there and there. Got his arms, which come down to the forearms here. Got his fully plastic splash driver. You can see it's got a lot of nice details, to the point where they even detailed in the design for the robot splash jelly. We've got the legs with the tampgraphs here on the thighs, as well as the details for the legs and feet. Articulation wise, it has, of course, all the same details as the other RKF figures, with the add bonus of not only having these hinges here for the shoulder pads, but also, like with the BCR grease, you can rotate around these pieces to replicate various poses. For the comparison, here is him with the BCR Kamen grease, and yet you can definitely see that there's quite a difference. On the BCR figure, while not fully metallic, they use more of a semi-metallic plastic, as well as using two rather different plastics for some different pieces. You can see that on the RKF it's a lot shinier and definitely has a lot more of a glow to it. Additionally, for the black parts, they went with, although clear black, a very opaque black color, which you can barely see through, and I think that for the RKF figure, they actually hit a good balance between being opaque and clear, whereas some could say it's a little bit too dark on the BCR figure, and from what I've seen of the SH figure arts grease, I think that one had the clear parts a little bit too clear. Then you also, of course, have the details that are different, like the paint on the belt here, whereas no paint here. Additionally, you have the tampograph here on the forearms for the BCR figure, though not so on the RKF. And then, interestingly enough, they actually shrunk down the tampograph for the thighs of the BCR figure, whereas they are all along it for the RKF, and that's mostly because this has an articulation break here, whereas for this figure it is in the hips. So I would say that this actually does do a better job at representing the rider than the original RKF figure, though this one does have the gimmick. The gimmick wasn't really that special. For his accessories, first up we have his weapon, which is the Twin Breaker in attack mode, which is a little bit disappointing since Grease mostly use it in beam mode. This will just pop into the hands, and unfortunately this is one aspect where it doesn't do as well as the BCR release, as this A wasn't really designed so that this could easily fit over the forearm, so it does kind of knock against it like this. And the second thing is that the grip is not the most tight, so it's pretty easy for it to just kind of droop down when he's holding it if you don't have him posed in such a way where it wouldn't as easily fall down. And for the hands, got a couple. One is a fist, which is for his catchphrase pose, and then the other is this hand with one finger extended and curled, which is actually to partially represent or replicate his henshin pose. Of course, you can just pop that out, pop this in, then get something like that going. And there we go. Overall, I think these are fantastic figures with great paint, detail, and articulation, as well as some nice accessory parts. And I think that with this line, Bandai has finally given us a good, affordable alternative to SH Figuarts. Especially when you have things like Grease and CrossZ, which definitely feel like smaller, kind of more scaled down versions of SH Figuarts figures, and they certainly do have better alternatives or better articulation than the BCR series, which was, good for the gimmicks, but if you wanted a straight up posable figure, it wasn't necessarily the best thing. And so I think that with this line, this is going to be something that I'm going to get a lot of, and I think that collectors are going to get a lot of, because there are going to be several releases of these figures that, in the past you'd only really get good high quality articulated figures with if you bought SH Figuarts, which, while some were pretty affordable kind of standard retail releases, there are a lot of them like CrossZ and Grease that were premium Bandai exclusive, making them a lot harder to come by and a lot pricier. So I think that if you're looking for a good posable figure for these guys, I would actually recommend these more than SH Figuarts, just because you know what you're getting. You're getting something that is actually a lot easier to pose and has enough articulation and detail to make it a worthwhile buy. And just to let you guys know, this line is actually going to continue with some other Rider series. For now, they've shown releases from Build and Exade, and it's going to include not only figures that had previous releases in standard gimmick figure lines, but also ones that never made it into the gimmick figure lines and basically would only otherwise be released as part of the Soto or the SH Figuarts line, so look forward to that. Of note is that I don't plan on getting all of the Legend Rider series figures, but I will definitely be getting a lot of them, and for some they will overlap with SH Figuarts releases, but I will do some comparisons when I have both in hand. So look forward to more Legend Rider series figures in the future. Next time, I'll be actually doing a review of the Genbu Hotenfu Yoseiken, so a return to Yokai Watch's Shadow Side, which will be Saturday at 6 PM PST. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you're new and would like to see more, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And for now, this is Karo50, writing off.